Hello and welcome back to the SBK Betting Podcast. Tom Collins here and I'm joined by Ross Millar as ever. We're going to talk about Royal Ascot Day 2 in this pod. Thank you very much for all your likes and comments on the Day 1 pod yesterday. They're very much appreciated. Now, Day 1 had just about everything. Inclement weather over the night meant that we had good to soft ground on the round course. We had good ground, supposedly, on the straight course, although it rode a little bit softer than that. So we weren't predicting that. We thought it was going to be pretty firm. Leading US rider Ira Ortiz was taking off his 2 mounts for Wes Ward, so we didn't get to see him either. Johnny Velasquez went on. Ira unfortunately had food poisoning. God knows where he'd been on Monday night. And that's not even to mention the racing itself. The racing was fantastic. Triple Time kicked things off with a surprise victory in the Queen Anne. River Tiber won the Coventry to the delight of Ross and myself. And the King's Stand went to Bradsell under Holly Doyle, under a good ride, albeit he interfered with Highfield Princess late in the day. Paddington was potentially the highlight, and we'll come to him later in the St James's Palace. Ross, what did you make of Day 1?
I was pleased with River Tiber. I was very frustrated with Triple Time. I tipped him on the podcast for the lock-inge, and then my sort of angle around the Queen Anne really was just finding something against the top couple in the market, because I didn't like them. He was on the list. I was concerned about the prospect of lightning quick ground for him. The rain came, and he looks like a really good horse, albeit I'd be slightly concerned about taking the form literally. I think they crawled quite early. I think throughout the day it's looked like it's very difficult to come from off the pace. I think he had the run of the race. It's not a form line I'd be taking literally, but really good to see. I mean, Neil Callan was really emotional. Obviously a big move to sort of forego the lucrative contract out in Hong Kong, come back to the UK. I think he said that was for sort of family reasons, bring his kids back to the UK. So yeah, really pleased for him, and got the day off to a surprising and slightly frustrating start, but it got better from there on in.
It did. Neil Callan, if you haven't seen this graphic on Twitter, apologies, I cannot remember who posted it, but Neil Callan was top out of all riders this season based on ROI and performance against expected performance with his horses. So he's been absolutely phenomenal, and he kicks Royal Ascot off in the best way possible. Let's talk about the King's Stand then. Twilight Gleaming and Coolangatta showed early speed across to the far side. Highfield Princess was up there early as well. The first two horses' names were done with 3 furlongs to go. They were out the back of the TV, leaving Highfield Princess up front, but Bradsell loomed alongside, showing his customary brilliant high cruising speed in the race. Holly Doyle went for Bradsell. He went a length clear. Looked like Highfield Princess was battling back, but there was a bit of interference late. Bradsell kept the race. What did you make of the King's Stand?
I thought it was a good race. I thought it was the right result. I don't think Bradsell sort of was a fortunate winner. I don't think he was drifting, compromised the runner-up. As you know, I'm a big student of pace bias and track bias, and it does look to my keen eye that you're struggling to come from off the pace, and low numbers, that far side rail is where you want to go, which is, I think, backed up by the going stick reports.
Yeah, definitely. It looked far side. I think there was 7.5 far side, 7.1 near side. The higher the number, the faster the ground. So you wanted to be towards the far side rail. I thought Anaf and Twilight Calls actually ran really well in that race, given no horses were coming from behind. They finished 3rd and 4th, respectively, from miles off the pace. Now, the other race we should talk about, it's the St James's Palace. Paddington was the winner. He won decisively. I still don't love his head carriage, but he was by far the best in the race. And it's just proving that he's an immense talent going forward over middle distances. Chaldean finished 2nd, and then Charin finished 3rd, which kind of ruins the form a little bit, maybe suggests it wasn't the deepest renewal. What did you make of it, Ross?
Yeah, I think you're right about Charin. I mean, we spoke on the preview podcast that we perhaps didn't think that the 3-year-old mile division was the strongest, particularly amongst the colts. I thought he was a good winner, and I think he's looking progressive. And it's a reminder, perhaps to me more than anyone, that on the flat, these horses, they do progress. I can perhaps be a bit guilty on the flat and of not following my own MO on the jumps, which I'm always very keen to look for improvement and physical development and tests suiting different horses. On the flat, I think you can sometimes take form lines perhaps a bit more literal. Paddington is clearly on the upgrade. I think he's going to be a really nice horse over 10 furlongs, but he does just have that slightly awkward head carriage. Yeah, I think he was a resounding winner. Didn't have the run of the race. I think he was posted quite wide early. I think Frankie did get the run of the race. He was firmly put in his place.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't think there were any excuses for Chaldean. He was just beaten by a better 3-year-old on the day. Paddington will definitely improve for further, and also was the ninth winner in the St James's Palace for Aidan O'Brien, which also gave him the accolade of being the winning most Royal Ascot trainer. So fantastic start to the meeting for Aidan O'Brien. But did we expect anything less? Probably not. Okay, on to matters ahead. Let's talk about Wednesday's racing now and the feature, which is the Group 1 Prince of Wales' Stakes at 4:20 p.m. Only 6 runners go to post, but that's kind of expected. It's a customary small field for this race. It's a very competitive market, though, with Adayar, Luxembourg, My Prospero, and Bay Bridge all garnering some attention at the top. Less than 2 points separate all 4 of them in the market. Then you've got Mostadaf at around 20-1, and US Challenger Classic Causeway completes the field. Ross, what do you think of the Prince of Wales Stakes?
I have less of an opinion right now with this rain that's come, but I mean I don't know. I mean it's absolutely chucking down here. We've got a lightning, electric storm. I don't quite know what the forecast is for Ascot, and I think you have to take the forecast with a pinch of salt anyway, because it does seem very sort of sporadic. But what that rain yesterday will mean is that they won't be able to get the watering cans out tonight, I don't think, for fear of getting more rain. So it might well end up being quicker tomorrow. But if they get the rain, I sort of took the view that I didn't like Bay Bridge, didn't like Adayar on quick ground. They obviously have now got a bit of cut in the ground, so that perhaps bring them back into it a bit more. But Bay Bridge, I was a bit burnt by him last year, and I'm a bit slow to forgive him. Adayar is never a horse I really liked. Luxembourg just can't have his head carriage, and that's not going to change on good ground or softer ground. So it's My Prospero for me, largely by dint of sort of process of elimination, but I do think he's got a nice profile. He's been doing well over a mile. Looks to me like he's been crying out for this extra 2 furlongs. By Ifrage, which doesn't scream stamina, but out of a See the Stars mare, which should bring plenty of stamina to the game. William Haggis has just hit a rich vein of form, and I think he's unexposed against 3 in the market that will take up a big chunk of the market. I suspect the top 3, and I'm with him.
Yeah, we're reading off the same hymn sheet here. It's a really enticing heat. Should just quickly mention Classic Causeway. He has no chance on form. Like, he won't even get close. However, the fact that he's in the race could ruin the chance of Luxembourg. Luxembourg was seen at his best last time out when he went forward. Ryan dictated the pace, kicked off the front end, and no horse could reel him back in. Very much in the style of Highland Reel, trained by Aidan O'Brien. But Classic Causeway is a forward-going type with plenty of early speed. Maybe he ruins the fact that Ryan Moore would want to go forward. Maybe Julien Leparoux gets the front, and Ryan will have to adopt different tactics on Luxembourg. For that reason, I cannot have Luxembourg. Completely agree with you on Adayar and Bay Bridge. My Prospero for me, I think the step up in trip will definitely suit. His Lockinge fourth was very promising. And William Haggis, as you've touched on there, is in good form at the moment. Ross, there are 6 other races on the card, including the Queen Mary, Duke of Cambridge, Royal Hunt Cup. Don't give away your Wednesday Napa Next Best. And you don't have to have a selection here. But is there anything else that you like?
The price has slightly gone. It's not in the handicap. It's actually in the Queen Mary. I do like Relief Rally from William Haggis. She was a fairly rare debut winner for him. Doesn't get many debut 2-year-old winners. She's since backed that up in what I thought was a decent contest. I actually put her up on my racing TV column, but she was a much bigger price. She's into around 6-1 now, which is skinny enough for me in what I think is probably the most open juvenile race of the week. Handicaps, there was just nothing for me in the handicaps at all. So I've got a Napa Next Best, but I'll sit tight on those.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You don't need to bet in every race. But I will also give a positive mention to one in the Queen Mary in this section, and that is going to be Born to Rock. I think she's actually second favourite now. She was favourite this morning. We're filming this at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. They walked up front in her novice event. She was on the front end, so she was definitely helped by the early pace. But she quick and clear, despite the race turning into a sprint, and put 4.5 lengths between herself and her closest pursuer. Rider Robert Tart didn't go for the whip that day either, so that suggests there's a lot more to come. And I'm hoping that Born to Rock can provide a winning start for Jane Chapel-Hyam on what I think could be a very red-letter day for the trainer. Okay, Napa next best time, Mr. Miller. Where are we going?
So for the Nap, I'm going to go with My Prospero. I think he's got really strong credentials. I don't like the top 3 in the market, as I said. William Haggis, great trainer, one I really enjoy listening to, watching how he campaigns his horses, and I think he'll cause I mean, an upset maybe, but to my eyes and to yours, and we're agreeing a lot lately, which is actually working out quite well. I seem to remember in the winter when we were agreeing, it didn't work out very well at all, but it's going well so far. So yeah, I'm with you. My Prospero. My next best comes in the Windsor Castle Stakes. It's Maximum Impact for Alice Haynes, son of Havana Grey, who's doing great things. A stallion that I sort of took a while to warm up to, but he's getting really tough, tenacious horses. Alice Haynes has showed herself to be a real dab hand at training these sharp and precocious 2-year-olds. He's had 2 runs. I like that in the juvenile races. Served River Tiber well today. That extra bit of experience, I think he certainly got down and got dirty to win the Coventry. Maximum Impact has shown he can do that himself. His first run was a non-event. It was a flag start at Leicester, but he won very easily. Then he went to Ascot and won over course and distance. I think that's a nice angle in. Ammo Racing are desperate to get a Royal Ascot winner, but particularly a 2-year-old winner, because that's what they sort of nail their colours to.
Yeah, my Prospero, Ross's Nap is 4-1. Maximum Impact is 7-1 in the Windsor Castle, his next best. Ross's next best was River Tiber on day 1, who won. So make sure you pay attention to his 2 main selections on Wednesday. My nap is going to be Intelligent in the Royal Hunt Cup. In fact, it's my nap of the week. And unfortunately, his price has gone. It's more than halved. He was 20-1 2 weeks ago. I put him up as my nap of the week in our proper big Royal Ascot preview, which is on our YouTube and Spotify. So check that out. Now he's around 8 or 9-1, which isn't as good, but I still think he's the bet in the race. Last year he finished second in this. He was racing off £1 higher, so he's running off lower this time around. James Doyle takes them out again for the first time in 12 months since this race last year, and last time out at Newbury. It just looked like Holly Doyle wasn't really bothered about winning the race until the final furlong. Nevertheless, he still clocked the fastest 3 furlongs to finish the race. That's one for you clock watchers out there. So hopefully Intelligent, from a good draw, can win the Royal Hunt Cup. And my next best is going to be the horse that we've already talked about in great detail, which is my Prospero in the Prince of Wales Stakes. Already touched on him. We don't need to go more into that. Thank you very much for joining us for this Day 2 Royal Ascot preview. As always, if you enjoy the content, whack the like down below. We do appreciate it. And subscribe so you don't miss all of our great content, including the rest of these Royal Ascot previews for the rest of the week. A reminder of SBK's latest offer. You get £5 in free bets when you place a £10 horse racing multiple. Do not miss out on that, especially if you like your horse racing accas at meetings such as Royal Ascot, which I know plenty of you do. Ross and I will be back tomorrow for Royal Ascot Day 3 podcast. Until then, be lucky.